Just about every fandom has ships. Whether it's Dean and Castiel from Supernatural or Hunter and Willow from Owl House, fans love to ship characters in their favorite shows, movies, books, and other media. A quick little primer on shipping in case you aren't familiar with the term. It's when fans express a desire for two or more characters to be in a relationship, usually, but not always, a romantic one. Generally, shippers are a smaller subset of an overall fandom, but sometimes, in some fandoms, they become a more prominent percentage. It seems that Good Omens may be one such case. So, I'd like to explore why. What makes the Good Omens universe so appealing to shippers? Let me start by sharing a little personal anecdote. In my longer than I care to admit life, I have only actively shipped characters in one other fandom, one that got quite some amount of hate from the fandom in general, and even outside of it. Hello, fellow Raylos. So this is only the second time I have found myself invested in a fictional pairing to this extent. And I'm not alone. With a combination of seasoned shippers and those newer to this fan activity, the most popular Good Omens ship, Crowley and Aziraphale, topped the Archive of Our Own, also called AO3, fanfic charts for the final count of 2023 and the summer count for this year, 2024. I'm interested to see if they continue this trend at the end of this year. Crowley and Aziraphale are not generally considered a slash, that is, a male-male pairing, unless people are writing in an alternate universe where both of them are human, which is also not uncommon. But in canon, Crowley and Aziraphale are both occult beings, so they're counted as other, which makes this pairing stand out even more, as historically male-male pairings are the most popular in both fanfic and shipping circles. This trend, male-male ships, originated where it all began, with the OG/ship Kirk and Spock. A quick aside, although shippers have been occasionally accused of fetishizing gay relationships, I think the more plausible explanation is that male characters tend to be more numerous and more fleshed out, even today, so there's just more to work with when imagining a romance. In addition, there is very little queer representation in media, so people tend to create their own. But all of that said, I don't want to ignore the other numerous pairings we find in Good Omens, both canon and headcanon. As a matter of fact, I'd like to explore some of the ships in my effort to explain why Good Omens remains so friendly to shippers. Enemies to lovers. Season 1 of Good Omens does not make a romantic pairing of Crowley and Aziraphale canon, though many argue that it hints at it quite heavily. This is likewise true of the book. But while the exact nature of Crowley and Aziraphale's relationship was still uncertain in Season 1, Good Omens did not shy away from pairing other characters off, even making those pairings important to the outcome of the story. And it isn't the characters with matching personalities or character traits that find themselves with romantic feelings for each other, but instead those with complementary, though often opposing ones. Enemies to lovers is a very common and well-loved romantic trope and can be found in diverse media, from Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice to TV's beloved Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Game of Thrones, movies like Dirty Dancing or When Harry Met Sally. Wow, I just realized my references really date me. But anyway, audiences love to see characters overcome their differences, find common ground, and then fall for each other. The tension of will they, won't they, and how can they ever reconcile their differences makes for great entertainment. Good Omens makes wonderful use of this beloved trope.
I am an angel, you are a demon. We're hereditary enemies. Get thee behind me, foul fiend. After you.
And while Aziraphale isn't technically correct there about Crowley and himself, Newt and Anathema are actually hereditary enemies, with Newton's ancestor, one thou shalt not commit adultery Pulsifer, being the one who led the witch hunt and spearheaded burning Anathema's ancestor, the witch Agnes Nutter, at the stake. And Agnes, in her foresight, managed to take adultery Pulsifer with her to the great hereafter. But it isn't just their ancestries that clash. Newt is a bit goofy, he struggles to find the right words, he's portrayed as bumbling but gentle, charming and sweet. Anathema is strict, articulate, decisive, neat, and a little bit sharp around the edges. Basically, everything Newt isn't. Their coming together and helping each other is what ends the actual threat of nuclear war at the airbase. Although their romance is shaky to begin with and more than a little bit questionable, Newt shows very real empathy and caring for Anathema when he suggests burning Agnes's second book, and Anathema shows she respects Newt's insight and compassion by listening to him. Madame Tracy is a colorful character, figuratively and literally. Everything from her hair to her makeup to her scarves are tinker bright. She's a very adaptable person who takes on many roles in order to get by in life, including prostitution, mediumship, playing secretary, and renting out the extra room in her flat for Sergeant Shadwell. She displays a very open mind and a willingness to accept other people as they are. Sergeant Shadwell, on the other hand, is distrustful, dishonest, quite judgmental, and intolerant. Some of it is for show, to seem tough, and because he wears the persona of a witchfinder-like armor. He consistently refers to Madame Tracy in terms that he believes, at least on the surface, to be derogatory, but Madame Tracy is not ashamed by her professions and takes no offense at the terms harlot or Jezebel. Instead, she wears down his gruff facade with her natural charm and openness, getting him to display his somewhat better self beneath. It's not a perfect pairing, but both actors bring a great deal to the role. Sergeant Shadwell is even more dislikable in the book, and Michael McKean brings some appeal to the character. Although they don't officially get together until after the Nopocalypse, they do work together and get Aziraphale in Madame Tracy's body to the airbase, which, if nothing else, allows Adam to put Aziraphale back into corporeal form, something he might have otherwise found quite tricky considering he was about to be on the serious outs with Heaven. In Season 2, Maggie and Nina, who are actually also a relatively popular canon fanship, display a similar dichotomy, though it's more along the spectrum of another popular trope, opposites attract. As Nina explains near the end of the season, there's a soft one who still believes in magic, and the one who's all hard edges. Of course, the big reveal at the end of Season 2, that Gabriel and Beelzebub have fallen in love and are planning to run off together, is just the enemies to lovers trope all over again. Each has led their opposing sides for millennia, but eventually they manage to find their common ground in the struggle they each experience in those positions of leadership. Something I find very interesting here is that Gabriel and Beelzebub are still the second most popular ship in Good Omens, and that ship began with the very subtle hints we got in the final episode of Season 1. A look, a word of commiseration, and fans saw the potential there. This segues me into another point I'd like to make. The art of foreshadowing. Sometimes, creators are accused of getting characters together out of fan pressure. Hello again, Raylo. Rather than the obvious explanation that some people are simply picking up on clues that were placed there by the writers and actors. In the case of Good Omens, Michael Sheen himself is an Azzy shipper and played the role in Season 1 with that in mind. The scene in 1941 where Crowley saves Aziraphale's books from the bomb in the church is a moment where he really played this emotion with intentionality. In an interview, he said that Aziraphale loves Crowley. It's a pretty straightforward opinion of the actor, even before the canonization of the romance in Season 2. In addition, we know that Rob Wilkins, who manages the Pratchett estate, shipped both of these characters before Season 2. We also know that the writers did not engage with fan fiction or entertain fan ideas. This is a story whose direction was laid out decades ago in a conversation between two friends. Fans did not influence that. Even the foreshadowing of the relationship of Beelzebub and Gabriel is clear in retrospect when you look at it from a storytelling perspective. Gabriel needed to be removed as Supreme Archangel in order to make the position available to Aziraphale, setting up Season 3, or now the Rescued 90 finale. Certainly, there are many ways to remove him, but Good Omens has always been, at its heart, a comedy of errors about two opposing sides coming together to achieve a common goal. It was actually quite a natural outcome when you look back at it, and considering we've been told that the groundwork for both Season 2 and 3 were laid in Season 1, I think the bit of chemistry between Beelzebub and Gabriel at the airbase is quite intentional, and I applaud the fans who picked up on it. Everyone is welcome. Good Omens is chock full of romances in both seasons. Season 2 may have been the soft romantic middle, but Season 1 didn't exactly lack in romantic pairings. The romances in both seasons include traditional hetero ones involving young attractive folks like Newt and Anathema, and older folks showing it's never too late to find love in Madame Tracy and Sergeant Shadwell. They also include a variety of queer relationships that include representation of ace, gay, lesbian, and more, and some that are just, well, ineffable. Of course, I can't talk about ships in Good Omens without talking about Crowley and Aziraphale. Considering the centuries-long, nearly written in the stars, enemies to friends to lovers, inseparable nature of Aziraphale and Crowley, Their extremely high appeal as a ship is pretty clear, at least to me. The actors have amazing chemistry, and both are fantastic performers, and that certainly helps. And because they are both male actors, and yet their characters are not inherently male or female, there is a malleability to the characters that most other ships simply cannot match. For instance, if you prefer to imagine femme Crowley and Aziraphale, go for it. That's actually technically possible. The exact nature of their relationship also remains somewhat nebulous, even after the finale of Season 2. Certainly, I don't think either of them even know the exact nature of it. They clearly love each other, but what kind of love is, again, in my opinion, quite intentionally left a blank canvas for fans to paint on. Many of us imagine it as romantic, and some imagine it is sexual, and some imagine them in a more comfortable domestic situation. And the great thing is, none of us are wrong because so much about them is left open to our interpretation as fans. So whether you prefer to see them as gay or ace, or friends, or lovers, or an old married couple, etc., you're right. You're all right. We're all right. There are also many popular non-canon ships like the Ineffable Underlings, Muriel and Eric, or Hastur and Ligger, or Michael and Dagon. It's a universe that seems to want folks to find their soulmates, so fans oblige. In some other fandoms, authors might insist on stating very clearly the nature of some of their characters' sexual orientation or the state of their relationships, leaving fans very little room for imagination. There is even a culture, in some fandoms, of stomping on the imagination of the fans, discouraging them from engaging with the content they love in a creative way, telling them, no, those two characters would never get together, and you're a bad person for even thinking it. That couldn't be further from the truth in Good Omens. We have been welcomed, even encouraged by many of the creatives behind the show to think about all of the relationships in the show in the way we would like to envision them, to create fan fiction and fan art to our heart's content, and not to be shamed by those who originally created these characters or those who brought them to life. We're in a fandom that's chock full of canon ships and very open to even non-canon ships. So, have we answered the question, why is Good Omens enduringly popular for shippers? This show is full of one of the most popular romantic tropes, enemies to lovers, and that trope is portrayed as people finding balance, finding those that complement their shortcomings and bring out their best qualities, and smoothing out the rougher qualities. Good Omens is also very, very welcoming to every type of ship, every type of pairing you can think of. All of it is welcomed and accepted and celebrated by the writers, the actors, all of those behind-the-scenes creatives, and generally speaking, by other fans as well, which means you and your own ideas feel welcomed and celebrated. The actors we love so much, Michael Sheen and David Tennant, in interviews have made very positive comments about fans' engagement in fanish activities like fanfic, fan art, and cosplay. They love to see all the Crowleys and Aziraphales at Comic-Cons, and they note there is never one without the other. They accept and encourage their fans. We, the fans, are welcome in our own fandom, and I think that's not as common as we might hope in fandoms today. Our creative efforts are supported internally by the malleability of the Good Omens universe itself, externally by the cast and crew, and communally by each other. I feel amazed to find that I am continually inspired to create in this place, and I hope you are also inspired, whether it be to draw, paint, write, sew, sing, or just imagine. This holiday season, my wish for all of you is that you feel that spark that Good Omens ignites of creativity and friendship, camaraderie, and love. On that note, keep your eyes peeled for an announcement coming very soon. All of your creativity and talent needs to be shown off somewhere. Don't forget the Ineffable Con Anti-Christmas Party is coming up. It's non-denominational and will be taking place on Saturday, December the 7th, just a few days from now. Tickets are free, but any donations go to the Alzheimer's Research in the UK. Link in the description below.